I want to thank everyone from across the country and around the world from joining us today. I'm Michael Higgs, Program Manager here at Conscious Capitalism. On behalf of the CCI team, we appreciate you taking time to learn and grow in community with us today. I'm very excited to be sharing space with Karen Salmon, our CEO, as well as Andrea True, the Director of Environmental, Social, and Governance at Vital Farms. We are going to be discussing Happy Hens, Happy Stakeholders, No Bullshit, Vital Farms, data-driven model for impact reporting. As many of you know, conscious capitalism is a philosophy that emphasizes the human nature of business, as well as a movement of business leaders from around the world working to change the practice and purpose of capitalism as a means to elevate humanity. Conscious Capitalism is a nonprofit organization dedicated to catalyzing that movement by creating learning opportunities like today's session and building systems of support for practicing conscious capitalists throughout our senior leader network and engagement with our local chapters. Several times a month, we offer virtual gatherings as a way for the community to see how our philosophy takes shape in the leadership journeys and business practices of those in our network. Today's gathering is going to run for about 45 minutes. Andrea and Karen Salmon will be in conversation for about 25 to 30 minutes. And then we're going to transition to audience questions for the last 10 to 15. Do use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, I hope you do, please put them in the Q&A field. And we'll get to as many of those as we have time for. If you have any technical issues this morning, you can go ahead and email us at info@consciouscapitalism.org. And I'm very excited to introduce Andrea Chu. Andrea believes that building more resilient food systems can solve many of society's challenges, and has spent her career working towards that. Andrea serves as Director of Impact and ESG at Vital Farms and supports the company's environmental and social impact strategy. She's worked across the supply chain from developing sustainability and responsible sourcing programs at Cargill and the Campbell Soup Company to influencing food companies with the Environmental Defense Fund to working on a few seasons on farms. Andrea, it's a pleasure to have you join us today. Thank you, Karen, for being here, and look forward to the conversation.
Michael, thank you. And Andrea, it's so good to be with you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about Happy Hens and all the other good stuff.
Me too. So, this is kind of personal for me. I live in upstate. I grew up in upstate New York. I live here today. I'm surrounded by family-owned farms, and go to a local farm to pick up my eggs, and so this is a kind of personal for me. So I'm really happy to be here. I would like to start by asking you just to give our audience just a kind of frame of Vital Farms, and maybe a couple sentences on how you got into sustainability. We got your background of where you've been, why this is important to you.
Yeah, so honestly, I probably grew up as a little bit more of a tree hugger, with more of an activist spirit to me. But really, once I spent a couple summers in college working on farms, from urban farms to a really big, large-scale broccoli farm out in Salinas, and just seeing the vast difference in kind of how our food gets to people and what an impact. I think we're going to say the word impact a lot today, but just how our food system is super complex and a confluence of a lot of challenges that we talk about in society, from climate change to food insecurity and hunger to nutrition. A lot of that comes together from our food system, not to mention how just sort of visceral food is for so many people around food cultures, what it means to them. It's really a common language for a lot of people to talk about. So I have always been really passionate about that intersection of food and a lot of our social and environmental challenges. And I think I didn't plan for it this way, but just my experience working in all different parts of our food supply chain, it's been really interesting to just learn how each organization tries to take their part in the food system and use that as a lever for change, for better or for worse in some organizations. So I've been at Vital Farms for a little more than a year now, and it has just been an incredible experience to work for a food company that was founded with the mission of conscious capitalism at the core. It's obviously sustainability has been top of mind and really grown as a movement over the last 10, 15 years. So instead of being at a company where we're trying to retrofit to fit sustainability, it's at Vital Farms, it's been there from the beginning.
And just remind everyone about Vital Farms, the products that you deliver to consumers, and just give us a little more color on that.
Yes, for sure. We are a pasture-raised egg company. We also make butter as well, and we distribute nationwide. And we started in Austin, Texas, almost more than 15 years ago, with a single founder who had just 20 Rhode Island red hens in his backyard, and that's how he started the company. And today we are one of the top branded eggs in the country and are growing really fast every day.
And you're a public company.
Yes, and we IPO'd, I think, a little more than 2 years ago. Correct.
So I bring that up as we talk about conscious capitalism. Like Michael said, we believe in a management philosophy that is underpinned by 4 tenets of a higher purpose, conscious leadership, conscious culture, and a stakeholder orientation, where we look for win-win-win opportunities and making that ecosystem really healthy. It's also this intersection between consciousness and capitalism. It's not all consciousness or all capitalism. It's that intersection, the intersection between profits and purpose. Yes, and so as I reflect back on our management philosophy, and read the Vital Farms impact report from 2022, coupled with your 10K from the past year. You talk a lot about conscious capitalism. So, and you mentioned as you were talking about Vital Farms, that Vital Farms has incorporated the philosophy of conscious capitalism. So can you tell us about your stakeholders?
Yeah, for sure. So we bucket our stakeholders into 6 groups. So we start with our farmers, our shareholders and investors, the environment and the community, our crew, so our employees, our customers and consumers, and finally, of course, our animals, our hens and cows. And as we think about everyday decisions, we're always keeping all of our stakeholders in mind. It's that constant awareness of how each of our decisions may influence each of our stakeholders that kind of really helps us bring that conscious capitalism to the fore.
And that really shows up in your impact report. So you joined Vital Farms a couple of years ago. And what inspired you to create an impact report, and what goals did you hope to achieve with it?
Yeah, so our impact report is our one-stop shop for sharing how we are working to benefit our stakeholders. I think of it as both a storytelling vehicle, but also an accountability one as well, right? As a publicly traded company, we report out on our financials every quarter. This is sort of our same sort of how are we doing with our stakeholders check-in, if you will. And so last year, this year we just launched our 2nd report, and last year our inaugural report was actually called Our Commitment to Conscious Capitalism. And it was our really kind of first step into just really kind of pulling back the curtain of what we're doing in all these spaces. And so with our second report, we wanted to build upon that foundation and start putting goals and clear metrics and just state our aspirations in a much more quantitative way so that we can signal to anyone reading the report where we're going and how we're going to be measuring success in that regard.
And the report is full of amazing stories, beautiful pictures, and a lot of KPIs. And so can you expand on how you measure, what metrics you use, and how that relates to your stakeholder ecosystem in creating that the healthy ecosystem from your hens to your shareholders?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's helpful that with our shareholders, the financial metrics really kind of serve them. But when we think about the environment, our community, and our employees, our farmers, that doesn't always show up in financial reporting. So, for example, we started measuring our greenhouse gas footprint and setting a target for how we want to reduce our impact on our climate. From the community side, we talk about how we contribute and how we partner with certain organizations to make sure that we are building our impact within our community. So, for example, the philanthropy dollars that we may give, or in-kind food donations that we're making. But then also thinking about our farmers and how do we help them become more resilient. So there we're thinking about regenerative agriculture practices to help our farmers make sure that they can farm for generations to come as our climate is changing. And how do we scale that out? So it's equal parts both. There are quantitative and qualitative elements to it, but to get down to, we have 5 impact goals that we announced earlier this year, and we went through like a really kind of rigorous and albeit ruthless process of really understanding what is most important for us as a business and how does that intersect with what is most important with society. There are tons of challenges that we could be taking on. Where is our time, resources, and efforts best suited for what we know that we're good at? And that's within our stakeholder base, working with our farmers, delivering quality food to our consumers, and what our direct footprint on the environment is.
Oh, it is really interesting. And as you talked about, what we've decided, there's a lot of societal issues that businesses get impacted with. They come from media, the news, from consumers, from our employees, from the outside in. It sounds like as you developed your impact report, working with your peers in management, you were really thinking about what will help us from the inside out, what social issues, what environmental issues that are good for society and for environment, but are also good for our business from the inside out without that outside influence.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are publicly traded. We've been around for 15 years. We're still growing as an organization and still figuring out sort of what are our capabilities, what's actually feasible for us to achieve. We have around 300 employees. And so with the growing company, there's always 10,000 things to do on the to-do list. And it's not really useful to anyone if we're throwing out commitments that we don't know if we can actually get to, right? So that's where like the inside piece is really important. Doing a ton of just meetings and chats with our functional teams to understand what is our capacity within our supply chain right now, or what can our farm support team actually have capacity to take on at this time? Where do they think we should be going, right? It's so important that our crew is brought into the process because they're our they're a company, right? And so then using that as sort of our foundation, and then starting to look at each of our stakeholder groups, understanding what's important to them.
Mm.
And then as we move further outwards, doing a benchmarking of other companies like us, or companies we kind of maybe really admire, and kind of use them as sort of just a benchmark of what we could be, what's sort of the standard in the food industry right now.
And that was really well said. And you know, in our community of conscious capitalism, that's one of the benefits that we believe that we bring to conscious leaders wherever they are on their journey, their growth, and with their companies, and bring them together so we can share our ideas and what we put into practice, and others who are, you know, further along, or, you know, have developed a practice that we can learn from. It's a great way to share these ideas, which you are doing with us today. So, you know, going back to repeating again, because it's definitely worth repeating, conscious capitalism, we believe that business can elevate humanity. In your impact report definitely is an example. And we know that companies need to be financially healthy to achieve this. So how does Vital Farms' balance need to generate profits with the desire to promote sustainable, ethical practices throughout the operations?
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to our stakeholder model, right? Our investors and shareholders being a stakeholder that we should be that we need to consider and be aware of, right? And at the end of the day, if we aren't making financial progress, then everything else as a business doesn't quite work as well, right? The business part, continuing to be a profitable business, is a really integral part of how we do impact. As we scale, we are bringing more farmers into our network. We are bringing more hens to living their lives outside. So we think about that as a way that we can kind of continue to grow our web of conscious capitalism, if you will. But I think this really came to the fore as we were thinking about our climate goal, for example, right? A lot of companies out there are setting carbon neutral goals, net zero, carbon emissions goals. And when we thought about what that would mean for our financials, they started to butt up against each other, right? And so in addition to sort of thinking about ensuring our financial goals are successful, we didn't want our climate goal to be not only nonsensical, but kind of bullshit, if we make that statement and know that those two things can't be true, right? So as we're thinking about, again, growing, increasing our farmer network, selling more eggs to consumers, we knew that we couldn't set an absolute reduction target. So that's where we went with a greenhouse gas intensity target, trying to do more efficiently and reducing our carbon footprint per dollars of revenue. So that's the kind of ultimate KPI that we decided would be realistic for us from a financial and sustainability goal side.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that when leaders come to conscious capitalism, you know, we hold the bar high, you know, because we want to get to that level of conscious capitalism that's important for the company from the inside out, and you need to operate a really healthy business, and because without profits there can't be purpose necessarily, you know, so that is really important. I appreciate the transparency, which which reminds me of a conversation that we had a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how when we were deciding on the goals, and you were deciding on the impact report that you were going, not even the report, the goals that you were going to develop to make the impact. the team that you pulled together. So this is a little bit of a, for those who are thinking about putting together an impact report or establishing those goals that would lead to more transparency. Who'd you get around the table, and how did it come into action?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I talked to almost everyone, almost every function, because these are very much organizational wide goals. So for example, we set a zero waste to landfill goal at our primary processing facility, and talking with some folks who actually work at our processing facility and understanding sort of where are the gaps and where are the opportunities that they see, what do they want to work on and feel passionate about, is just as much of a driver. So going back to how we set these goals, we had in our first draft, we had maybe like 20 some goal options out there that spanned all the material issues, from like food safety to our farmer well-being, all the societal challenges that we could take on. And we took a pretty rigorous like filter of looking at what is our internal capacity and ability to do this. The second is, how would this benefit our stakeholders? And the third being, is this realistic with our financial projections? And so with that, we were able to really kind of clear down to what we thought would be those 5 goals that I mentioned, that again would be most material for us as a company and to society.
So you worked with every function within your organization and kind of got the big pile of everything that you could do, and then put it through a filter of what was good for the company, was it realistic, and how you could achieve it to come up with.
Yes. Is it good for our business? Is it good for our stakeholders? And can we do it, right?
Okay.
That can we do it is kind of important.
So. 100%. And so, okay, so that was the filter, and then you were able to then tie the KPIs to it. And that led to the goals, which then led ultimately to your second report, which says here, now we're measuring it. So how does Vital Farms communicate the financial value of its sustainable and social impact initiatives to your investors and other stakeholders?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we're still figuring out all of the ways that we could do it. I think with our climate goal, for example, there's a lot to be said around energy savings and energy efficiencies that could be financially beneficial. But I also think about it in terms of risk. We're mitigating risk. At the end of the day, just as much as an opportunity for positive impact on society, we're also mitigating risk for the business. So earlier this year, there was, as many of you know, there was a lot of hubbub around eggs, right? Egg prices were skyrocketing. Eggs were really hard to find on shelf. And one thing that I've been really proud of with Vital Farms is how resilient our supply chains are, because we've spent the time to invest in those relationships, really shorten our supply chains, again, have that direct relationship with our farmers, and our supply wasn't affected. We were able to continue to show up on shelf, whereas other egg companies had a lot of challenges with shortages. And I think that kind of investment in stronger, more resilient supply chains, resilient farmers is going to be that financial benefit in the long run. Yeah.
That's interesting. So healthy hens actually led to a healthier supply chain.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's just thinking about that longer term timeline too, especially being a publicly traded company. And I've worked at other publicly traded companies in the past where it was literally just the next quarter, the next quarter, the next quarter. And impact is not, as much as we wish it could be, achieved within a quarter. It's a much longer time frame that you have to keep in mind. And so actually having these impact goals help us continue to maintain that long-term business thinking, and how we invest in that longer term thinking while balancing the requirements of being a publicly traded company.
Yeah, that's a delicate dance, and it seems like you're really figuring out the ways that, just in that one example that you had from this past past 6 months, it really had a positive, the impact that you're trying to make with your whole ecosystem had a positive financial benefit for the company. So how has the market responded to Vital Farms' sustainability and social impact initiatives? One measurement would be your stock price, but you also have analysts that follow you, and they're making projections. So how is the market responding?
I mean, this is where I get out of my depths and feel like I need to call on my CFO and investor relations team. But in terms of just how we've continued to build consumer trust, right? Being reliable, to be on shelf and accessible in that regard, and that they have a lot of confidence in our product. So we are really proud of our traceability program, where our consumers can type in the code on the carton that they receive, and they can actually see what farm that those eggs came from. And then we do a lot of work engaging our consumers. We have an incredible community management team that is constantly super responsive, building those relationships on how we can be a brand that they trust and they feel good about. And also just being really transparent, not just in this one report. This one report is kind of that one-stop shop, and but it's kind of a tent pole for how we continue to tell our story and be transparent for the rest of the year until our next report comes out.
Yeah, so the market, what I hear you saying is that the market, you're displacing traditional egg producers and grow. And I remember reading this in your annual report or your 10K, that you are displacing and gaining market share. So there's customer demand and brand loyalty that is driving a healthier business. And so the greater market is probably influencing the financial markets, and there's that tie together.
Yeah, absolutely. If we just think about the options on the shelf these days, compared to 20 years ago, of the types of eggs that are available, right? Consumers are wanting to know more about where their food comes from and wanting to demonstrate their values with what they buy. And so if we can continue to deliver with that, we can grow as well.
So going back to your work in the business, are there any new initiatives or projects that you're currently working on or that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I think about our regenerative agriculture efforts with our farmers. So at the end of last year, we launched a new product called Restorative, where we worked for more than 2 years before that with 4 farmers, where we really kind of piloted a ton of different practices that would help them build soil health, increase their ability to store carbon in their soils, and with that also reduce flooding and just create a better land for the farmer and for their hens. And so now we are taking those learnings and bringing them to our broader farmer network, and helping and really equipping our farmers with that greater resilience as they're facing, hotter summers, rainier days, and just a lot more volatile weather patterns. And so in that regard, we're also shoring up our supply chain. So always bringing it back to how does it help our business as well?
Yeah, we into that, there's continuing investment in building the business. And we were talking about how you are building another facility to help the business grow, and the impact and how these decisions to grow the business might negatively impact the some of your sustainability goals. And so again, can you give us a real example about, how you work with your peers and within the business to, to communicate this out to the rest of the, to your consumers and to the market and the financial market, and how that all kind of ties together?
Yeah. Well, I think it's not so much like it's all about making sure you have all the relevant data or information when making a decision, right? So this is where we always go back to the stakeholder model of, for example, if we decide to build another processing facility, right? Or even anything else, bring on another farmer. What does that mean for each one of our stakeholders, right? I think, for example, our main processing facility is like one of the most sustainable operations I've ever seen. It's extremely energy efficient, and we built it with LEED standards in mind. So it's extremely climate friendly and just all around very green. And so if there's a way that we can not offset, but mitigate some of those potential negative impacts and build it into the design from the beginning, thinking about that as we make these bigger decisions around growing our business. Because I don't think they necessarily run counter to it. It's all about how do we make sure that we're considering these factors as we're making the decisions.
Yeah, and so in your role, you're really tied into, the sustainability and impact that you can make. Can you talk a little bit about the overall culture within Vital Farms and how this is all communicated to the inside of Vital Farms and all your peers that you're working with to make the world a better place? And just give our audience a feeling about what's special about the culture of Vital Farms.
Yeah, I mean, every crew member I work with I feel like really lives conscious capitalism through and through. In prior roles where I also wore the ESG sustainability hat, so much time was spent convincing my counterparts or functional partners why they should care, what the opportunity for impact was. And here it's just understood. So I can kind of hit the ground running a lot faster, just because the idea of the stakeholder model and conscious capitalism is so built in from day one. I mean, through our onboarding process, that's like we do like a full-fledged conscious capitalism training for every new hire, and so we catch them right at the beginning, and so they know that this is how this company operates. This is how you need to operate to be successful here at Vital Farms. And that has probably been one of the most personally rewarding things about working here at Vital Farms, is having such support in the mission and the idea that business can be a force for good.
And it sounds like through the onboarding, when you're talking about the pillars of conscious capitalism and how you show up, that it's very values driven. Yeah,
and kind of it's a little bit almost of a self-selecting process for the kinds of people who want to work here, right? They know that Vital Farms is so values driven, and they share that, and so want to come here. And I think that's probably what makes us such a attractive place to work, if you will. If you don't mind me tooting our own horn for a little bit.
Absolutely.
But it is that ethos, and people, myself included, feel like we are a part of something bigger and beyond ourselves. And it's not just me in my virtual office, but working with our farmers, connecting them with our customers and our consumers, and every step of the food supply chain along the way.
Yeah. Along that line, how does Vital Farms see its role in the broader movement towards sustainable and ethical food system? And how do you hope to inspire others? You talked about looking at others to be inspired. How do you look to inspire others, including everyone here today, to follow your lead?
Yeah, I mean, we are just trying to prove out that you can be both a commercially scalable business and environmentally and societally responsible, right? That is, I think, kind of a novel idea, and that we have been growing every quarter to be able to really show that there is another way to do business. It doesn't have to be purely extractive. You can be profitable and scale while also keeping all of these values in mind. I think particularly in the protein industry, which is super consolidated and very vertically integrated, we're showing that that other path that companies can take, and that there isn't just like the one current model to succeed. And there are a lot of other brands out there that I say I admire a lot, who are trying to do the same thing in their sector. I think Oatly is a really great example of doing that within the milk industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that, the way that we can turn an industry upside down and find, there's opportunity with your family-owned farms as compared to the corporate farms, in being able to find the profitability thread that goes through that, and so you're able to grow and then and maintain family farms and allow them to grow and sustain, like you said, generations of farming. And so turning that industry upside down. And I've noticed now, in your reports that you're talking about butter and likely other products that will come from that. I'm not sure if there's anything to say about how the model works there, but is it a similar kind of model as you think about other products that you can bring to market?
Yeah, with our butter, it is sort of because there is more of a processing element, we're still figuring out what the best way to do that is. But we have a really strong relationship with our processor, who then has a really strong network of farmers. So it really is about finding the right partner that, again, shares your values and is willing to invest in that long-term vision with you. And then it's, again, we talked about kind of that yes and the win-win, and then it is successful for both sides.
Yeah, this is a really terrific story. Vital Farms has been a partner of Conscious Capitalism for a very long time, and it's exciting to see you go from being a private company to a public company and continuing on the mission to elevate humanity through business. I'd like to open up the conversation to our audience, and answer their questions about the work that Vital Farms is doing, the focus on building an impact report. We've had some discussions in the community about different ways that companies are looking at impact and how they want to get the measurements out. Before we turn it over, another question. You did an annual report. Are there ways that you are looking to generate those numbers on a more frequent basis? Are there other ways that you're thinking about communicating the success that you're having, or the struggles that you're having as you really are developing the KPIs and all the data that you're generating?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that we're considering as we continue to build the muscle around the metrics and KPIs. That's definitely something we want to work towards, is more frequent progress check-ins. So
yeah, I imagine that all your ecosystem looks for those metrics So looking for them and seeing how they're performing. And out of curiosity, do your farms must have metrics that they have to report on with and around sustainability and the financial side. So all the way through your ecosystem, there's metrics. And how's your supply chain responded to your suppliers and partners? How have they responded to your changing, the changing KPIs that you're developing through sustainability?
Yeah, it's not so much of a change, but we talk about continuing to raise the standard a lot. And so they know that working with Vital Farms, we're going to continue to up the ante because that's what consumers expect of us. So obviously there's an element of change management involved and taking the time to do it in partnership. But it's very much a part of how we're kind of building progress and the movement towards this activity.
Yeah. Does it have an impact on distribution and and how those partners are thinking about how they work with you and changing how then they report back to you? I feel like there's a ripple effect. Some of it's intended and then some of it can be unintended about the positive impact that you can have as you're leveling up.
Yeah, so I think distribution is a really good example because the transportation companies that we work with, the logistics companies that we work with on distribution, we are asking them to report more data on things like miles traveled, fuel efficiency, things like that to better understand what their footprint is. And I think probably a good sign is that we're not the only customer asking for it. It is a general just sort of there's a momentum in particular in the food industry to have better access and understanding of, for example, how many miles is my food traveling or my product traveling, and are we doing the most efficient routes, right? That's another both cost savings and environmental win, right? Around fuel efficiency and efficient routes. So helping them understand what it is that we're looking for as well.
So we've talked a lot about conscious capitalism and the influence it has had on Vital Farms and how Vital Farms has then influenced conscious capitalism, so we can learn how to implement the framework and the philosophy through different organizations. And this is a great example because it's your industry and your needs are different than others. And so I really appreciate the time that you're taking us through, especially the stakeholder model, which is complex and it's hard and it requires a lot of attention in innovation and innovating to find the right metrics and how we have the positive effect. So appreciate the conversation. And Michael, I'm going to let you open it up for questions from our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you to all those that have submitted some questions. We've got some great ones here. I'm going to start with a question from Diane Sutter, who's one of our Senior Leader Network members. And Andrew, I realize that you've started recently at Vital Farms, so maybe you don't know the origin story of Diane's question, but she said, prior to going public, where did the capital come from to get financials on board with this notion of conscious capitalism? And perhaps you've taken additional investment on and sold that story of conscious capitalism. So anything that you could speak to there would be helpful for Diane.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Diane, I don't know exactly the ins and outs of where the capital came from, but the fact that the conscious capitalism was part of the company, I think was a value add. And the same thing as the public market responding to the mission. There's understanding that consumers are looking for these kinds of products, want to support these kinds of companies. The demand is there. So So they see that as kind of a value driver for the company. And so that's how that's kind of how the public reception of our mission has been. So we're, carrying on and trying to maintain that and build upon that.
Wonderful. I want to take a question here from Lindsay. Karen commented on sort of the beauty of both the illustrations and the data of the impact report. How do you weave the aspects of, say, your side of the business into social media and brand activations and such, so that consumers are truly getting a picture of what Vital Farms is doing?
Yeah, they're very much intertwined. So our impact report is the one report that we will continue to pull from and use to talk about our story. I think our social media team does an incredible job, again, pulling back the curtain of how we do business, what our farmers look like, how our hens are living, things like that. It's very much a part of what we deliver to our consumers. So.
Wonderful.
I think it helps to illustrate the extent to which Vital Farms is living their values and establishing the financial goals and the sustainability and impact goals. They're tied together, and there's no separation. So you can go from reading the impact report to their financial reports. And the financial reports, I always said the financials will tell one story, and then there's the color commentary, and it's almost like the color commentary is coming from the impact report to paint the total picture, the masterpiece.
And just to add on that, we line out in our financial reports very clearly what our risks and what our opportunities are. And those are the same risks and opportunities we're thinking about in our impact report as well. So obviously, again, a very example is like the risk of a storm impacting our farmer supply. How are we working to mitigate that on the impact side is through our regenerative agriculture goals. So that's kind of how they come together.
Wonderful.
100%. That's a really good example. So in the 10K and the risk factors that's articulated, and then and this is what we're doing to mitigate that shows up in different places, but it definitely shows up in the impact report. Yeah, that's a great example.
Well, to be respectful to both of your times, we're a little bit over. I also want to just thank our guests for sticking around as we've gone a little bit beyond our allotted time. Andrew, I want to thank you for joining us today. Karen, thank you for being here. Compelling questions, very, very informative. As we were discussing privately, Andrew, I'm a huge fan of the brand. Eat Vital Farms eggs every other day. Just thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the world. Both your work that you're doing as well as Vital Farms work. It's really remarkable. I do want to just put a short survey into the chat for everyone. This is a 3-second. Well, it will take 3 seconds because it's only 3 questions, but it does help inform our future programming. If you want to learn more about conscious capitalism, perhaps you joined, and this is your first exposure. You can visit our website, consciouscapitalism.org. If you're an executive implementing conscious capitalism in your business, we invite you to explore a senior leader network. You can find some more information about that on our website. We do also have some virtual gatherings coming up in the month of June. We've yet to launch this one, but we have someone who will be coming on to discuss the disrupting ocean transport. She is building a business to sail cargo around the world. So completely green solution. I wanted to mention that, Andrea, because you mentioned.
I'm going to be tuning in.
Yes, yes.
That sounds very cool.
Yeah. We will we'll be announcing that on our website soon, and I'll be sure to send a personal invite to you, Andrea, again.
So as we wrap up, Andrea, it's been so great to get to know you personally, and I look forward to continuing our friendship, our conversation, and your success. And I really appreciate Vital Farms and their partnership with Conscious Capitalism. It's amazing when you can see the work that we're doing reflected in the partners of our organization and how they're succeeding. So thank you so much for your time and for the great story and the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you all.